Now, certainly many of these young people were motivated by trying to attain a better living for themselves and their families, for their parents, trying to emerge from cycles of poverty. And so here is a Southeast Asian female student who I thought was very, very articulate about this, right? And so she said, the really honest answer is she wanted a better life for her family, okay, even though it sounds cliche. And she talks about a cycle here that low-income people go through, get caught in this cycle. It's hard to get out. It's even hard to see that you're in this cycle, she says, right? So people that are low income in this area, raised with hot dogs, get caught in this cycle, don't think that there's very many opportunities. She says that if she hadn't realized that there were opportunities, she may have just gone to a community college, she says, which isn't bad, but she wouldn't realize that there would have been other options, okay? And it's these other options that we're going to be talking about, and especially how these young people became aware that there were other options, okay? So let's talk about future orientation, which the literature says is a gateway non-cognitive asset, a gateway non-cognitive asset. In other words, young people seem to need to acquire this before other non-cognitive assets or character skills will be adopted. So here is an African-American senior who says that he had struggled with knowing who he was. And once he began to figure it out, who he was, he figured out who, quote, I need to be. And that's when I started doing work. That's when I figured out who I want to be, who I am myself. So just doing the work and having that goal, seeing that brought out more of the inner me. So again, being able to think about the future. And so very, very important, I think, how this draws on young people's imaginations. And one of the best writers I've come across on the power of imagination is Arjun Appadurai. And so very, very important on imagination here and the creative powers of young people. And so here's how Pajau talked about this, all right? So she talked about the struggles that she endured and the ridicule that she endured during her pregnancy at the top. And then after she had her daughter, she actually felt that she might give up, okay? But there was a part of her, she said, that said inside her, don't give up yet. There's still hope for you, don't give up yet. She says she came to the conclusion that her daughter was her hope. And she's been keeping her going. She's just a blessing to her, so I'm glad I had her. And then at the end, she kind of made me realize that I need to set my priorities straight and just go on with life, because it's not the end, it's actually a new opportunity for me to take, okay? So if people said that having a daughter as a freshman in high school ended her life, she would say, I have to just disagree, because I felt like she opened me up to the real world, and she allowed me to mold myself into the person that I wanted to be. So molding herself, and there's many different interpretations that we could make of a phrase like that, but part of this is taking on, from in the Foucaultian sense, needing to take on a sense of self-discipline, right? And disciplining the self. Foucault would also refer to some of these things that we'll talk about as techniques of the self as well. So that's what Pajau mentioned. So when I talked with Nemo about how she had begun to think about college and getting on a college-going pathway, the one person that she mentioned in the school was the same person that Truth Thompson mentioned, and his name was Sam Fitzpatrick. These are all pseudonyms. And he was the director of the school's College and Career Center, all right? And I'll tell you about him in a minute. This is what she said. Nemo said, I always mention him. He's gone above and beyond every single time. He works so hard, and I've seen it, especially for me, and I really can't repay him enough. He always says I'm brilliant. He always makes me feel better about myself, and I really like that. I know he's not just saying that. He truly means it. He sees something in me that I sometimes forget to see, potential to succeed and to overcome things. So here she's talking in a sense about this particular adult's ability to see her future for her, to see her future potential for her. And that seems so important for these young people in terms of adopting these non-cognitive factors.